Yo, what's up, everybody? Today, I think we're gonna start our first episode of Lost Generation.
Yay!
So alongside with me, my name is Marc, by the way. There's Thuong
Hi, this is Thuong.
and Linh.
I think I need to sneeze.
Right. Okay. Can you do it like before this? Okay. So for this first episode, I think we're gonna talk a little bit about like what defines us as Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what do you guys think? Like the most like definitive.
The first thing that comes to my mind is the language.
Mm.
I mean, it's pretty obvious, but we all grew up listening to our mom and our grandma singing lullabies to us. I still remember the words until today, and I think most of us can. Also, there are certain Vietnamese words that we cannot really translate it to another language. For example, the word thương.
Yeah.
Thương.
Hi.
Yeah.
Actually, yesterday I talked to a friend of mine. He just got back from the US. He was studying in Pennsylvania, and he said that there aren't any Vietnamese in his university. It was the only one. It gets pretty lonely, and he kind of miss hearing Vietnamese.
Mm.
So he finds it very endearing when he comes back home, and just feel like blend in and being a part of the community again.
Yeah, I think like that can be like a really relatable situation for people who study abroad. I don't have that feeling like right away when I came to Australia, but yeah, like after a while, yeah, I think like I kind of want that familiarity, or like the fact that I have my mom and my dad, and like maybe the mother tongue as well, but like not really like clarify like your friend, It's just like a really buzzing thing going on to me. That's interesting. To me, I think like when I define myself as a Vietnamese, it's not that easy, but I can totally say that I'm proud of being a Vietnamese by the love of history in general, and especially like the Vietnam War. Because I don't know, like when I do the research about the war, it's just such an interesting piece of history in a way, because it was around the time where there's like a lot of social issue going on, like the media just started to like got the boom, like every American household, like they have TVs and such, so they see all of this like raw footage of the wars and the aesthetic and all of the things like that. But one thing that Thuong actually said to me before is that I look at it in a really third perspective way, but not necessarily like in a Vietnamese way. Like, what do you guys think about that? Like,
Yeah, because when I said that, I kind of imagine you standing in between of everything, and you look at the history from like a very varied perspective. Then you don't really proud of being a Vietnamese in general. You're proud of the history that was made during that time, not because you are Vietnamese and you are the descendant of the people who actually made that history,
Yeah, and that's the point, like when you talk about like if I'm define myself because of history, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that's my main point of like how to define myself as a Vietnamese. But how about you, Thuong?
Well, I don't know, because this is a particularly hard question for me. I think for most other people as well, if you like really think about it, because my brain was kind of triggered to think in reverse. And when I encountered the question, I just thought of things that made me not Vietnamese.
Right.
Yeah, because I was born and raised in a very traditional Vietnamese family. But then if there's one thing not Vietnamese about my family, then that would be our religion.
Yeah.
My parents are Catholic. I was raised within the Catholic sort of mind.
Yeah, spectrum.
Yeah, in that spectrum. I'm not like the hardcore Catholic practice, but like it's hard when the big part of your upbringing is just surrounding doing something that other kids do not really understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really relate to the Vietnamese practice in that aspect. And because I know you guys are like either atheists or like
Semi-atheist.
yeah. So yeah,
religion.
because if I go to church,
Yeah.
then people go to the temple or something, and they do things in the new year that I don't particularly do. Yeah, which is I just feel like it set myself apart, and there's nothing particularly Vietnamese about being a Catholic. I think. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And we have talked about this like for a long time now, like since we first met, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the only interesting part that I always ask her about. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it somehow just keep coming back to that topic. I feel like he's very curious because I'm so fucking different from regarding that aspect.
Well, I mean, history, also involves with religion. So I'm just like,
Yeah, I think it's also started from like we would set up a day to meet, but then I would tell him that I have to go to church, and then he would ask like, why would you go to church? Like, what is the meaning?
I'm asking questions like I'm 5. I'm like, okay, what did you guys do, man? Like, I'm so interested by it.
Yeah. So if you imagine like I grow up like that, like I do a lot of things that people around me don't really understand.
Yeah.
So I think with that, it doesn't make me feel Vietnamese compared to other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you guys think like to be a Vietnamese, you guys have to have like these core values, like you have to go to the pagodas because you are Buddhism, or what else? Do you guys think like that, or?
I think a big part of our core values, the number one is patriotism. Like for example, in the Vietnam War, we don't just fight to fight, we fight for our independence, and we fight because we love our country. We want the North and the South to be like the whole Vietnam again.
It's a war of unification, basically. It's just like a really misunderstood war in a way, and that's why I'm interested because of that.
So do you feel anything like sentimental when you read about the war?
I mean, not technically love, but like there are like tons and tons of stories, like small stories about like soldiers, like getting married really young, but then they have to go to the war, and they fought for a cause, it's not just like because they just want to fight.
Yeah.
And then they died young, like it's like I think like I can relate to that smaller stories, but like in a way when I look at the war, it's basically really like factual because I look at it in an American side and also Vietnamese side as well. Like I said before.
I think for you, you just look at it because you found that the facts in there is really interesting.
Yeah.
Not particularly because like I'm curious because this is my root.
I think I look at it I think I look at it in a big picture kind of way because it's a huge period of time technically, and that's why I said like I don't know if that really like what defines me as Vietnamese, or just being proud of that time frame in particularly, but yeah.
Yeah, but I just feel like what you guys been talking about is the things that happened a really long time ago, and from my observation personally, not many Vietnamese like kids, teenagers, our generation really relate to that on a very personal level, or they don't even understand it really. Yeah, so how does that love for the country show out during this day that you can relate to?
Yeah, I think like right now when it comes to like what defines us as a Vietnamese, like for the regular teenagers, and I'm being very like stereotyping, but it's more about like the physical things, like when I ask someone, they would often say they are proud of being a Vietnamese, or they define themselves as Vietnamese because they love football, for example, like they can go on the streets and then parade with the flag and all those things, like.
Any of you do that actually?
I don't.
No.
I think I have a saying like I don't put a lot of my heart on like trivial shit.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I think this one will be offensive to a lot of people, but that's just like me. Like if you go on the street and do that, I'm totally fine. Just don't affect me. Like don't go in traffic and stuff like that. But I'm totally okay with the fact that okay, so you define yourself just because of that. But to me, I don't feel the same way. Like how about you guys? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't do that myself really. Not because like I'm not into football or soccer in general or sport in general, but like I just don't really see the meaning in that. You know, like
Yeah.
but a lot of people put that as a way of showing their love for the country or the support for the soccer team or something.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel that. I just feel like they're following a certain kind of trend, which
Yeah.
I'm not really following.
Yeah, and because you have to realize that if they do badly, then people are going to criticize them like the hell of it, you know? So yeah, I think that's really interesting what you said about trends.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people don't really understand why they're doing that. They're just doing it because a lot of others are doing it.
Again, like physical things, you know, just like so yeah, like when you ask a teenager, it's really easy for them to say, okay, I'm Vietnamese for sure. I have a passport, right? I live here for my entire life.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, it's like so actually you're really like deep down under.
Yeah, if you speak about the
question,
legal and the nationality factual aspect of it, I think it's quite easy because I often say that I'm from Vietnam, which is something that really exists.
Yeah.
But I don't really say that I'm Vietnamese. Not because I'm not proud or anything. It's just subconsciously I don't really relate to the term. Yeah.
And like, have you guys ever been mistaken for being like an overseas Vietnamese or Korean, Chinese?
I have been mistaken for being a Korean.
Yeah.
But that's just because I live in the very Korean area of the city.
Yeah. Like, I have been mistaken for so many times now. I think like when I went to Com Cafe with Linh, there was a waitress, right?
Yeah.
Like she approached us and she just immediately spoke English to me and then right away turned around, said like Vietnamese to Linh, and I'm like, that's just so random, like how? And I think like it's the fact that maybe I have a certain vibes that people can somehow mistaken me for being either an overseas Vietnamese or some other nationalities, you know? Like, have you guys felt that before?
I do felt that kind of vibe from you.
Right. Tell me more.
But I can't really because it's kind of indescribable. But yeah, maybe the way you dress or the way that you wear certain accessories or
I love rings. Not gonna lie.
But do you correct them when they mistaken you to be something else other than Vietnamese?
Yeah, I think sometimes. I think when I get really tired of it, I'm like, I'm Vietnamese. Or sometimes subconsciously, I'm like, okay, no, I'm actually Vietnamese as well. But sometimes
you go with the
I just go with
the
it,
flow.
especially when it was in Saigon, like, cause it just happened for so many times. You have to understand me. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna go and flow with it. Because basically, like, I went to groceries, you know, in Saigon. I was there for like 5 days. And it's such like a brief moment in time. And like, they just spoken English to me. So why have to change? Because I just want to buy like some toilet papers.
So it's just purely for like convenience purposes.
Convenience and a bit amusing at times. But like I don't really like take advantage or feel like proud of it.
Why do you find it amusing though? I think I know why, because I kind of do as well. As much as I don't really want to admit it, but like
I know. I think like because in a way like. And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but my English is quite good. So, and like we said before, like I have that vibe that somehow people would immediately associate me with like either an overseas Vietnamese, right? So I think that's the reasons, you know, and
I think for me it's just the situation is kind of make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though you're the only one who knows it, but
like the interaction is just so weird because like I literally brought my passport with me. It's a green one, but somehow they still try to speak English to me, and I'm like, okay, let's just go with it. I'll try to be like a Korean this time. You know, it's so interesting. So interesting.
So other than the history, is there anything else that made you associate yourself with the term Vietnamese?
I think when I first came to Australia, like during like my teenage years, I didn't really felt like either I was a Vietnamese or I didn't really feel like belong in Hanoi in general, you know, because I think I was really edgy at the time, you know.
You still are.
I still am, but I put more thoughts into it, you know, not just like, oh my god.
Also, this is deep edgy.
Deep edgy, yeah. It's like philosophical. But yeah, it's like I totally, and I have to be honest, I totally hated Hanoi for some uncertain reasons at that time. But then when I had a chance to come to Australia, I was really like fucking ecstatic because firstly I wanted to go to New York, but it didn't turn out well. So I went to Australia instead, and it was just like a new world, you know, like it's a new beginning to me. And I felt like I felt cool. I felt a bit cooler when I tried to assimilate into like this new improved society, and that's just my thoughts at the time, so don't, you know,
Don't take it personal.
don't take it personal. But then like by my second year of university, I started to feel this strange feeling of like Hanoi, you know. Like when I talked to my mom and my dad, I felt that there was a certain emotions going on that actually helps me to keep going, but I couldn't because I had my anxiety issues and such. So I came back to Hanoi, and somehow it's much more breathable to me, and I feel much relaxed in a way. So I think maybe it can be associated as like a homely feeling, I guess. What do you think?
Is it just because of the context aspect of it that makes you feel more welcome in Hanoi?
Yeah, maybe I think, because like I said, I think when I talk to my mom and my dad, like they support me a lot actually. So that's why like at the moment like I can talk to them like friends. Not like a really
nice.
shitty friends, but like a good friend, you know?
What?
No,
Okay, sure.
not condescending. Just like, hey, you know, like I don't use a lot of like or phone. But somehow
Wow,
it's
what
still,
do you use then?
Is he a man?
Yo.
Okay.
Really?
But like
Okay.
because we have this mutual understanding in a way, you know, and
Yeah.
I think it relates back to the homely feeling as well. Is that like we connect together even more. So I think like the situation that I have, actually kind of augments the fact that, you know, I have that feeling.
But when you moved from Hanoi to Sydney, you didn't feel that.
Still have to clarify that. yeah.
Critical questions.
So I feel like it was an escape route to me in a way. It sounds suck, but it was like around the time when I was feeling really trapped, you know? Not for any particular reasons, well, maybe some, but like, you know, being a teenager, you know, you have like a certain restrictions on doing things, and I have never really felt like I was belonging into like a certain group because I just like, I don't know, maybe it's like my personality in a way, but I'm so different in a way. Not
Quirky?
not
Edgy?
quirky. Hashtag. I don't know, it's just like I felt something that like different, you know, because like, I don't know, like the way that I talk or the way that I interact with people, so I just felt like there was a certain trappedness.
So do you think it was because you were more exposed to Western media in general?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think we all do, considering our generation and how early our parents introduced us to like English and TV and technology.
Yeah.
But I think we all exposed to like different aspects of the media that we think so differently to one another. I think we all study English very early in our lives, and half of my education is in international school.
Yeah.
But then I also got the jump from like a normal Vietnamese school to international school.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one like to relate to or like which one to grow into.
Yeah.
So I kind of grow into both. which end up like not like nowhere, but like now I've grown enough to like embrace that kind of individuality. But then when I try to reconnect with like other Vietnamese in a very Vietnamese way, I don't know. There's just certain things that I feel different from everybody that I don't really see the connection there, considering like my taste, my exposure, my religion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that stuffy feeling of yours.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's so like indescribable in a way, right? You
Yeah.
don't have any words, or you don't have
Yeah.
like, any like reasons. You just felt there was something that was missing
Yeah.
in order for you to enjoy. And I think it also kind of relates to my question a little bit for you guys. Is that like, have you ever felt like you are such a contrarian that you can't really enjoy things that can make you define yourself as a Vietnamese in a way? You know, it's a hard question, but
It is, yeah.
yeah.
It is. I think so, yeah, because like I think it came down to my overthinking of
Yeah.
everything.
That totally relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do enjoy myself with them, but I'll also like I don't know, there's just certain things that I feel like there's missing from my experience, that I keep having to jump from one place to another to get the full experience of it. Yeah. So what about Linh?
Yeah, I think I would say I'm the most Vietnamese out of all of us. just three of us.
Yeah.
I actually go to Vietnamese school, throughout primary to high school. For me personally, I find it a little bit hard, a little bit difficult to really go with my friends, my high school friends' jokes. I don't really find it funny. I find it a little bit offensive.
Right, yeah. And that goes into like straight away stereotype.
Yeah.
Like honestly. But like I think you can stereotype a little bit because there are people like that, right? Do you guys think like that?
Yeah, but I just don't like stereotype things in general, because if you think about it, like you think about Vietnamese as a type in a box.
Right.
Yeah. You can't really say anything if you introduce yourself as a Vietnamese. Okay, I know that you come from Vietnam.
Yeah.
But what else can I say about you, like, if not being stereotypically?
Right. And it can lead to like a problem, right? Like
yeah, because like there's so much more to a Vietnamese than just that title, whatever that means, and whatever stereotypical thinking that's going on out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't really.
Yeah, but like, do you guys think that many people actually realize that?
What do you mean?
Like the fact that being in Vietnamese is much more than some stereotypes, for example, because it goes back to the fact that some people identify themselves as like football fans, and like they go on the streets, and then they parade with the flags and all of these horns going on. Like, what's up with that horns, by the way? It's like from South Africa, right? It doesn't make sense, bro. That's South African, like Zumbala or something, like horn. Maybe it's hot. I mean, very stereotyped here, but anyway, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't think many people think about it though. We're just a group of very overthinking.
We are.
We are lost.
Yeah, we are lost. We're just a group of very overthinking people. But if you really think about it, then there's so much more to being a Vietnamese, and that kind of leads me into the question that how do you actually define Vietnamese? Though I don't think there is a definition.
Yeah, I think it goes along the line with you that I think it's really hard to have like a word, for example, to describe yourself as Vietnamese.
Yeah.
You can either be this or be that, but at the end of the day, maybe you still are a Vietnamese, You can like jewelries. You can be feminine. Come on. Like you can be anxious, you can be everything,
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't matter.
Maybe this is the way that we put this question. I mean, what if we ask someone that like what defines you as an American or as a British, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they?
They would say like stereotypical things, the first
Yeah.
random things that comes to their mind.
Yeah.
When you really think about it and overthink it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this question can be related to pretty much everyone on this planet, I think. Because, like you said, and I have met a lot of Americans, like they are proud of their country, they are proud of being American because either they love the fact that they can be allegiant, to the flag, for example, or something that is really like stereotypical, like you said. But yeah.
Yeah, because I just feel like we all have a different definition when it comes to what defines Vietnamese. And also, as Ling said, because this is a way that we phrase the question, how do you define yourself as Vietnamese, is make the context of it a lot more
so we kind
personal.
Of created a problem ourselves.
Yeah, because I feel like I face an identity crisis when I tried to answer this question.
Did you Google?
Yeah, I did. Anyway.
Yeah, I literally typed down like what how to define like people as Vietnamese, and then they have like this bunch of like answers, but basically about like how to say this word in Vietnamese. Like for example, like Thuong is so prominent on Google. I'm like, wait, what? How? But anyway,
that's come down to like the understanding of language that they try to explain Vietnamese. But I tried to Google this question, and there's just no answer that I'm happy with. Yeah, because I think underlyingly we just create our own definition of the word Vietnamese.
Right.
But that leads me to the fact that maybe it doesn't exist as a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think like in a way, creating terms is to dumb down a lot of philosophical questions, and it's also easier to identify to something, But like you said, if you really think about it, like critically, it's really hard to answer, and sometimes maybe you even realize that it's not.
It's an identity crisis.
Well, so much for patriotism, guys.
No, the thing is, I do love my country in certain aspect, whether it's my understanding of the language or the understanding of culture. It's not just knowing it, but really deep down understand why we do something. But it's such a sentimental aspect of it, though. It's not really as factual as you would prefer it, but it's just something that I myself grow up with for 21 years of my life. That when you live with something so much, or when you practice something, it's just become endearing, and it becomes your habit. Yeah, kind of.
Right. Yeah, I think like yesterday I had a conversation with my dad. I went to a cafe with him. We usually do
Bonding.
That. Bonding, yeah. I'm old.
Yeah.
23, I think. Right. Yeah. I went. I sat down with him in a cafe, and we actually talked a little bit about the history of Vietnam in general, like the Vietnam War, and why like Hanoi is kind of like being a little bit set back in terms of comparing to South Korea and things like that. And we actually, he actually asked me this: does like getting older when you are in like another country, for example, makes you more sentimental and miss Vietnam even more? What do you guys think?
I did spend like a few months abroad. I don't think it's long enough to like actually be sentimental about going away from home, but I do miss certain aspect of it, but I don't think I have reached that stage in life, as you said. To be really sentimental about coming back to my home country. Yeah. Do you feel that when you were in Australia?
To be honest, I don't. I don't feel it as powerful as for example, like my relatives in Australia, you know, like
Yeah.
they are getting really old, and like they just miss being Vietnamese in general because you know like they live in Australia happily, but most of the time they do like chores or you know taking care of the babies for their children. So they have this homely feeling that they just want to you know come back. And I think this is also like a generational thing as well. Like
Yeah.
we are so influenced by a lot of shit going on
Yeah.
you know, internationally. So that sentiment, I think, is not that strong to actually relate to it that much. Do you guys feel like that
Yeah.
as well? Or?
Yeah, I think it's just because we familiarize ourselves with a lot of culture. That's when we went abroad or we live abroad. We can still relate to that culture that is living there. So in a way, I felt fine just living abroad, and I can relate to people there, even though in certain aspect I feel like they don't really understand me. But I can live with that, you know. So I think that sentiment is not as strong as like your relative living abroad for a really long time and they're actually rooting to come back.
Yeah.
To something that they know.
Yeah. Yeah, they come back all the time. It's like they are about to get the citizenship and they just come back. And I'm like, you know, yeah, I get it. So that's why I said that I think it's more of like a generational thing.
Yeah.
And for the younger generation like us, and we don't feel that strong urge of like homesickness, I think. Because yeah, again, like we got so many influences out there. Yeah. But like what kind of like things that your friends in London, for example, don't really relate to you?
They didn't expect like explicitly said that, but I can kind of feel it. It's just the difference when like my mom checking on me more frequently than their parents do, or I have to go like visit my relatives living in London. Like actually spend time with them, quality time with them. They don't really understand why we have to bond with such a distant relatives, or the way that I cook, the way that I eat. Yeah, just certain like small things like that. But yeah, it doesn't really affect me that much. Yeah. But yeah, when you lived abroad, what did you miss about Vietnam?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I think I miss Vietnam in terms of like, and like when I actually realized that Vietnam it's okay, you know, I don't have any hate on it. I grow up, like I honestly felt like I actually have grown up since I was like an edgy teenager. You know, I realized a lot of shit. You know, I have my ups and downs. So I think one thing that I realized that I love Vietnam would be like the family values in a way. Maybe not certain aspects of it, but like the fact that we take care of each other, you know, even physically or emotionally in a way. Or maybe just my family, I don't know. But like I actually talk to my family quite a lot. Like pretty much about everything, and sometimes it's a bit inappropriate. I think, but like it's really comforting in a way, and it's a bit also relief to have someone by your side and you can actually just pour it out. Because like again, I have been diagnosed with like anxiety before. I still have it, but now I think that I can contain it and make it into something else. But yeah, it's like coming back to the core values as well. Like sometimes maybe subconsciously you don't realize it, but that Vietnamese is still in you, and sometimes I think it's actually fine to actually, you know, tell your parents about everything. You know, it's not something that's like pussy about it. I'm hurt. Anyway, yeah. How about you guys?
Yeah, I would put that value. I value that core beliefs a lot more than other things. Like when people mention Vietnam, they relate to the food, and many like many study abroad students, they would say that they miss the food so much, And
Yeah.
I can't really relate to it. I remember I miss my family, and then I miss being with them and being comforted by just being with the people that I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the food, not really.
I mean, I can relate to that. Like,
No.
wait, what? No, I am. It's like, I was studying in a group, for like this
Yeah.
assignment, and like during this quarantine thing, and then there was one guy who said literally about the fact that he just wants a bowl of pho right in front of his face.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, oh my god, I just need it right now, and I'm so craving for it. I'm like, sure, dude. But like, let's get back to the assignment, please. But then, like, again, I think to me, I don't really associate myself, like, identify myself as Vietnamese just because of the food.
Yeah, but that is the thing that come up very often
Exactly.
when you Google it or when people talk
Exactly.
about it.
And it became a stereotype as well, right?
Yeah, I heard people say like if you cannot distinguish like a good bowl of pho
Yeah.
with others, you're not Vietnamese. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, I'm not Vietnamese.
Yeah, and I often see like on Facebook they have this kind of
Are
like
you
10
Vietnamese?
things that makes you become an Hanoian or something that like if you don't do this you are not a Vietnamese. I'm like fuck. And I score really low because I'm like for example they have one quote about like have you ever experienced traffic jam in this particular street? And I'm like bitch like traffic jam is the same.
It's
Pretty
everywhere.
much everywhere. So like, okay, so because of that, I'm not a Vietnamese. I'm like, wait, what? And I scored like 2 points out of like 12. Just because I don't eat a certain food, I don't go to a certain street.
Yeah.
It's so stereotyped to a point where I'm like, yeah, again, identity crisis going on. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's really interesting, like seeing this kind of like quotes and such,
Yeah, because I don't really relate to any of them
Exactly.
for
It's
that
like,
matter.
you live really far away.
Yeah, I live
So-
very far away. So
Yeah. It's like it's so much going on, and it's not just because like you done this, and then you immediately becomes like
yeah.
like it somehow augments you to become Vietnamese. I think that's just like ridiculous, basically.
Yeah.
But like I think for Ling, she can associate herself.
I've
With
been
food,
listening
so-
all along, but
Well, yeah, you're being quiet, and
Yeah,
I'm
just
you're
like,
waiting for a
I'm
chance.
sweating balls right now. Like, what's up? Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I can relate to your friend about the bowl of pho thing.
Wow.
After the 14-day quarantine, I had a bowl of pho and it was divine.
Right. Okay.
I loved it. And I
That's
had another bowl of pho
Yeah.
then the day after that.
that's so interesting. That's really interesting, mate. It's
So
like
yeah, I relate to your friend.
it's like something out of like Indiana Jones. Like you just saw like a pot of gold or something.
Well, I think in this context it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel that at all. Like I
Yeah.
just eat it because it's good.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like that's just a bowl of pho.
Yeah, it's just food.
Maybe I'm being too cynical. I don't know, but
You are.
yeah, that's about it. Then.
No, yeah, but I do relate to that because I don't crave. Well, I do. I still got Vietnamese food when I was in London. But the thing is, I feel like I can live without it. I will be sorry for myself for saying this in the future, but I think so. But yeah, for now I can say that I can live without it. That's why I don't really relate to the stereotypical list of
Right.
things that makes you Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta agree that the list is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's stupid. Alright. It's just like someone the admin did, and then they just list down and then
No hate.
No, the Hanoian. What? Damn. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's an interesting thing. In Australia, I didn't really eat much Vietnamese food. I eat spaghetti.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I
but
eat like
the Australians have like good food though.
no, it's not.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, it's like meat pies, and like, it's really kind of like semi-British.
Yeah,
kind
because
of
I
cuisine.
was gonna say that British doesn't really. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy traditional British food. That's why I went back to
It
getting
doesn't have
Vietnamese
a
food.
traditional cuisine. That's the point.
Yeah.
Like it has meat pies, like chicken pot pie.
Everything pie.
Everything pie. No, basically, I think, and I'm being stereotyped again, but like, I think British love pantries in a way, right? Like Wellington and those kind of things.
Yeah.
This is a bit sidetracked, but yeah. But coming back to my story, I think like in Australia, I didn't really eat that much Vietnamese food. I don't have any cravings for it. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, like for example, my best friend in Australia was a Vietnamese girl. She was born in Saigon, and she loves like having noodles and those type of thing, right? So we actually did come to like Cabramatta from time to time, which is like a predominantly like Vietnamese neighborhood. But yeah, I went out just because it was a hangout rather than like, oh my god, hell yes, I'm going to get some fur today. I'm like, I don't have that feeling. So I think I don't relate that to like you guys. But it's interesting to see people, you know,
Go crazy.
eat that with the happiness in their face. Because I just eat it because I was hungry. But yeah.
Yeah, I would eat it with like a very happy face.
Right.
But that doesn't really define me as anything, because anyone can enjoy
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
Especially good food like we
Yeah.
have here. So, I don't really feel like there's anything particularly Vietnamese about your ability to enjoy certain things.
But you can be proud
Yeah.
of the cuisine, right?
Yeah.
'Cause I think like Vietnamese cuisine is often ranked kind of highly.
Yeah, we
In
have
the region,
really
man.
good
We
food.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. I can't think of only food right now. God damn. But like,
But I was thinking of a lot of people say I am Vietnamese. They pair it with a list of things that they're proud of that only Vietnam has.
right. I think like when you list down things like that,
Yeah.
food and football comes to mind. But I don't think like a lot of people like, for example, our generation actually care as much about history. Because I went to museums of like war and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like I'm the only Vietnamese in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in Saigon, I'm like, what?
It's kind of sad if you think
It's
about
sad.
it. Yeah, because like the most enthusiasm that I've got for like Vietnamese history has been coming from foreigners, not from my friends per se. Yes, I don't know if it's just a thing that we're so familiar with, or it's just something that we don't really care about.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
I think it's more about like they are not caring anymore.
Yeah, so because they're not caring anymore, I don't think that should be something that defines them as Vietnamese.
And I don't think they
Yeah.
define themselves as Vietnamese because of that.
Yeah.
Like they don't really think about Vietnamese as I do, for example.
Yeah. Because like when you list down a list like that, I am proud of what you've been listing out, but it's not a definition to me. It's just a list of things to be proud of, and anyone can be proud of that. Yeah. So when it comes to me, I just value more on the sentimental side of it, the core values and my understanding of what it is. Yeah.
Again, I think I'm on your similar page. Like for some cultural values of Vietnam, I like it. And I embrace it, and in a way, I was born with it. So I really appreciate that. But also the physical side of things. I think the factual side of things would be more correctly would be, for me, I love history. So that kind of ingrains even more on how I'm proud of being Vietnamese. Yeah, the Vietnam War is a really complex thing, and I don't expect people to just immediately like pop out with like stories or things like that.
Yeah.
I understand that, so it's okay even if like they don't define themselves because of the war. It has been a long time for sure, so move on.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm just like I love history, and that's it. Yeah. How about you?
I think if that's too complicated for you to relate, let's just circle back to some core values like family values. I think the reason why your relatives are so longing to come back home is because they want to be with their family. They want to see their children grow up and have their own family, things like that. I think think whenever just foreigners, they mention Vietnamese, they think that we're very friendly and generous, and we're always very welcoming towards everyone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think like coming back to my relatives,
Mm.
like their family is actually all in Australia,
Okay.
but like the young generation, I mean older than us, but they are already assimilated. They got their citizenship, like they live happily in Australia. But like the older generation, yeah, they always have that feeling, you know, because like it's such a tight knit thing for them, and it's such a core value. It's not even like among, but like it's a really core value.
Yeah, I think a part of it is because their children grow up in Australia, so they kind of lose that value a little bit.
Yeah.
No matter how hard they try to like transmit that value, it just kind of fade out with the environment that they are in. So yeah, I think they're long for that connection that cannot be found really anywhere.
Yeah, so they basically can't relate to like the Australian ideals, I think, because like in a way like my uncles and my aunts, they're basically Australians the moment they were born. Like you can't deny that in a way. Like they are so laid back, like literally laid back. Like they have camps everywhere. Like they just want to like.
You're being stereotypical again.
Streams down under. Like what's up with that? But like I like that. I like the. In a way that Australians they also have like a distinctively but also like really similar family values as well. My great aunts and my great uncles, you know, like my family is really big, you know, in the countryside, and my great uncle always have been like wanted to go back and live in the countryside as well. So I think like again, it's a really core value to them, but not for us. Yeah,
I think that's something that they feel deep down inside them. Like when I first read the question, I was brainstorming and Googling really hard and trying to come up with nice things, poetic things. But then at the end of the day, I guess I just feel a certain sense of belonging, and I find myself really enjoy being in Vietnam and seeing like typical Vietnamese things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the sewage or the dogs barking in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the little things, like some nice corners in Hanoi and how busy Saigon is. I think I talked about this before, but for example, Paris, the city of love, city of light. I read some articles or some people saying that Paris is not really that glamorous, except for the high-end fancy stores. But then I actually watched a YouTuber called Damon, and he said that he never really truly felt the spirit of Paris and feel like a Parisian until he fell in love with a Paris guy.
Right, okay.
And so I guess it comes down to your sentimental feelings towards a place or a country, as we're talking about Vietnam. I would say that defined me as a Vietnamese. I used to didn't really enjoy it. This again, that again, but then it grew on me, and I find joy in the little things.
I think for our question of this topic, like what defines you, me, anyone as a Vietnamese, it just came down to your personal values and how you actually feel the country, the city that you live in, because it's just different for everyone, and it's kind of indescribable to say what really defines me as something.
Yeah, I agree. I think being a Vietnamese is just to be yourself, you know, and maybe somehow can redefine or absorb the best out of all the values that we have, even if it is considered weird or not. So I think it's much bigger than just the word like Vietnamese.
Well, we end on a sentimental note then. I think the definition of being a Vietnamese it changes variously over time from person to person. So who knows, like tomorrow there will be a different definition of what being a Vietnamese means. So I think it's just the best if we can just stick to our own definition of it and believe that it's the best one to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's a good ending.